It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Monday, May 5th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that's really hoping those lottery balls go in our direction tonight.
It's just like me playing the lottery. Whatever happens, happens. That's the way I feel about it.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. I've been podcasting about the Flyers, the NHL, and hockey for a decade, and I'm here with prospect expert and Flyers credentialed reporter for 19 years, Russ Cohen. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And to keep up with our latest episodes and Flyers news, you can find us at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter. And of course, here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms continue their playoff push, and we are going to talk about all of that on tomorrow's show on our Phantoms Tuesday episode, as there's like a little gap in the games there before the next couple of games on the schedule begin. As far as the coaching search goes, of course, on Friday, we saw that the New York Rangers hired Mike Sullivan. And I think, you know, I certainly didn't think there was a shot that he would ever come to the Flyers. And the Rangers just kind of seem to make sense at this point, given where they are in terms of the talent they have and what Sullivan could potentially do with it.
Yeah, I feel like the Flyers. There was a shot he could go here. I felt a little differently. I didn't feel like it was stronger than the Rangers, but I felt like there was a shot. And no, so the Rangers, maybe he wanted to go there ever since he was an assistant, or maybe he just looked at it as the highest profile job, or maybe it was the most money. We don't know. So those are always the factors.
Yeah, and we're going to do a little check-in on the Metro division later this week, which should be a lot of fun. And I feel like the coaching carousel within the Metro division just keeps getting smaller
It's
and
crazy.
smaller. It is
Yeah.
nuts how these coaches keep jumping from team to team within this division.
Right.
Like, it's just wild to me. I don't know. But maybe people just like living in the East Coast, and so they don't want to
I
go
mean, it
too
doesn't
far.
hurt.
Yeah.
Time
Yeah,
zone,
I guess.
no time zone issues, less
Yeah,
travel. Like there is some
sure.
positives.
Yeah, maybe that's part of it. There were like little rumors out there that John Tortorella might join him with the Rangers, just again because they're very close friends
Yeah.
and have collaborated. Just saw them on Team USA at Four Nations, but maybe there's some water thrown on that rumor out there.
Yeah, Darren Dreger threw water on it, and that's fine. I mean, I felt like, sure, I tweeted and I said I wondered too, because we all wondered.
Hmm.
But again, we have to remember he's still under contract with the Flyers. We don't know how amicable it ended. So even if Sullivan asked, maybe the Flyers were like, to the Rangers? No. That's always possible. A lot of times teams will do the right thing
Or
by
the
us.
Rangers said no.
Well,
You
the
know?
Rangers said no too. Like maybe that's a possibility as well. Like Chris
Yeah.
Drury might have said no because it's John,
Hmm.
and you never know. So like all those things are possible. We don't know, and or maybe John just wants to be a head coach again. So there's that too. So it didn't happen. It's not going to happen, and we move on.
Yeah, one of the things we mentioned when Mike Sullivan left Pittsburgh is that he had been the second longest tenured coach in the NHL at that time. And the longest tenured coach is, of course, John Cooper
Hmm.
at the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I thought that, there could be a chance that he would leave Tampa
Hmm.
at this point. And part of it is just because, again, there comes a point where you're just like, it's time, and it's feeling like we're getting close to that time for him. And the other reason is because of Team Canada and the Olympics. And I really thought maybe he wants to leave Tampa, take a full year off from the NHL,
Yeah.
do the Team Canada thing, and then return to the NHL the following year in whatever capacity he can find, right? That seemed like a solid plan to me. Not guaranteed, but a solid plan for him. But he has said that he is returning, and the team has assured that he will be with Tampa next season. So he will still be the longest tenured coach out there.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is totally reasonable. Just having interviewed Cooper a lot, I just feel like he's not a guy that's going to sit at home. That's the issue.
Yeah, I
So
know.
so I think that's the
You
only
know,
drawback to that plan. Otherwise, it makes perfect sense. But I just think he's not going to he's not going to be one of these guys that sits at home. Even if he leaves Tampa, he's not going to like ride out his contract. He's not going to do that. He's going to get another job instantly. That's what he'll do.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I get that. It just seems like if you were going to do something like this is the year to do it.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
Olympics, so it would have been fun, I think,
Yeah.
to have him
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
in the background and maybe do some TV while he's coaching Team Canada, and then have his
I,
pick
I
the
mean, and
next
that's the
year.
other update we should give. Uh, if Rick Tocchet doesn't end up in Philly, like he might end up on TV anyhow. Like he may just want to
Yep,
go to TV. And wait and take his chances down the road. And that's a possibility too that Flyers fans and we all should look at.
yeah, I absolutely agree. So nothing is guaranteed here,
No,
whether you like it or you don't like it, in terms of the Rick Tocchet
the way it
situation.
is.
It's kind of an unknown for now. As far as the Flyers draft picks, we're going to talk about the lottery in the next segment, of course. But the lower picks that the Flyers have are partially determined by how the playoffs go. And as we know from Saturday night, that absolutely remarkable game 7 between Colorado and Dallas, Mikko Rantanen with that hat trick to send his old team packing. Like, what drama! Like, it
Yeah.
was great. I love hockey.
See,
Anyway,
it's funny. Like they made a choice, right? Colorado
they
made a
did.
choice. Uh, for a while, it didn't look great for Dallas. Like it was just like,
Yeah.
well, he hasn't fit in yet. Now he's fit in, and you see Mikko Rantanen as Mikko Rantanen has always played. And so now
Yeah.
it doesn't look good again. But like you can't go back and forth killing Colorado for this move because
No, it
Net
was the
just had
right
80
decision.
he had 83 points. It's not like he's not chopped liver for lack of a better term. So
Yeah.
it's just the way it worked out. And yeah, Rantanen got his revenge and it was a great series. Like it went 7.
It was. It was. And, of course, now the possibility of Dallas facing Carolina in the cup final is still out there. So I don't think it'll happen,
I don't
but
think
it's
so
still
either.
out there.
But
So,
hey,
you
it's
know,
on the board right
it
now.
is on the board. But at any rate, as a result, we have a little bit more information about the first round pick
Yeah,
that we got from the Colorado Avalanche in the Walker deal from
right.
last season. And so, given that they're out of the playoffs now, their pick sort of locks in to a certain degree. And right now they're in the 25 slot, but because there are teams that have higher picks than them still in the playoffs, depending on where it plays out, they could leapfrog the Avs. So the Avs pick could be as high as 22, I believe,
Mhm.
at this point. Now, we don't know the results of the Winnipeg St. Louis game, and that will
No.
affect that to some degree. But I think as of what we know, 22 is the highest that pick will go, but it'll likely be in that 22 to 25
Right.
range,
Yeah.
depending on how these other series play out, which is pretty solid.
It is solid. And so yeah, I mean, it's probably 5, 6 spots higher than I thought it would be regardless. So,
Hmm.
that's good.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately for us, the Oilers won that first
You
round.
weren't getting
And
everything. If there was one
no,
thing going
I
right,
know.
something else wasn't gonna go
Yeah.
that way.
Yep. So Edmonton is at 24. And so they are actually one of the teams that if they go back to the conference finals, they're going to jump down and that'll move the Avs pick up. So
Right,
the Oilers pick will get worse, the Avs pick will get better, and
right.
it kind of comes out in the wash, but we'll see.
Hey,
We'll see.
Sarah,
To be
Sarah.
determined. Yep. Yeah, we will see. And then the only other little bit of news we wanted to mention is that Sam Ersson got named to Team Sweden for Men's Worlds. And, obviously we saw the game that he got at the Four Nations, and
Right.
tremendous game
Yeah.
on his part. Wouldn't say the rest of his NHL season was
No.
stellar, but that one game, I think, earned him another look with Team Sweden.
Mhm.
The interesting part, though, is that Linus Ullmark is not one of the 3 goaltenders on that squad, and it was a decision. It wasn't like, "Oh, he's hurt." it was a decision by Team Sweden not to invite Ullmark. Maybe just because they know what they have and they don't need to see him at Worlds, but it looks a little weird.
So it's Markstrom and Sam, right?
Yeah, and then a guy that's in Sweden.
Right. I think the reason being, even though Olmark is like, hey, I was willing to go. I think they have Sam there because they know Sam's like the backup that can come in. And if you
Yeah,
have Olmark there and he doesn't win the job, he's sitting. And it's like you don't really the look of Linus Olmark sitting isn't a great look considering how
that's
good
fair.
he is. And so they basically chose, to me, it's not about Sam. It's like they chose Markstrom over Olmark. And that's a toss up. They're both really good.
And of course, as we recall, the Travis Konechny and Sanheim, as well as Tyson Forster, are on Team Canada for that tournament. So we'll keep an eye on them as well. In the meantime, yes, it is draft lottery day, and we are going to preview how that's going to go down coming up next.
Ever check your bank account and wonder where'd all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget much smarter and save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you could use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. You can control your finances with Monarch Money using code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year.
The Stanley Cup playoffs are in full swing, and if you've never been to a live NHL playoff game, it's unlike anything else, and I wish that for us Flyers fans sometime soon. You've got the intensity, the speed, the energy in the building. It is next level, and thanks to Game Time, getting in the door is easier and more affordable than ever. Game Time is the fastest way to grab those playoff tickets, even for those must-see matchups, and prices actually drop as puck drop gets closer with last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% for sports, concerts, comedy, and my personal favorite, the theater. Their all-in pricing shows the total cost up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. And the app even shows panoramic seat views, so you know exactly what you're getting into before you buy. And with Game Time ticket coverage, I know I'm protected, whether it's a cancellation protection or job loss assurance. They have a 24-hour return guarantee. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. On tomorrow's show, we will recap the draft lottery and all of those top pick implications that come from that. Plus, it'll be Phantoms Tuesday, so we'll catch you up on what's going on with them in their second round matchup against the Hershey Bears. Plus, we're going to answer your mailbag questions on Wednesday, so get those in, especially after the pick. If you've got questions about what the Flyers should do about that top pick, let us know by email at lockedonflyers@gmail. You can send us a message on any of our socials or comment on our YouTube channel. So tonight is the big night, Russ. And, I do long for the day where this isn't a factor for the Flyers, but it is. So let's go with it.
Yeah, it
It is.
is what it is.
Yep. Yep. So tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, ESPN in the US, Sportsnet in Canada. And they're doing something a little different this time. Now, I know in the way past when they first started the lottery, we saw the balls going.
Right, which I used to
And
like. I like the old school, like, you used to watch
yeah,
that, like, when I lived in New York and the lotto person would come on when lotto first came out, and you watch that person at, like, 11 o'clock at night. Like, it's kind
yeah,
of like a
yeah.
fun thing, an old school thing.
Right. And then at some point they stopped doing that and they did the actual ball draws ahead of time and then
Correct.
just put team logos in envelopes and
Yeah,
revealed them.
yeah,
Right.
with
And
those big
so,
envelopes and those
yeah.
placards, I would call them, yeah.
Yeah. So they are going back to the live in studio drawing version of it tonight, which I'm actually really excited.
I like it
Uh,
because there's an element of things can go wrong, and,
yeah,
like, I'm gonna look at all the little nitty-gritty details. I've actually tweeted before about the NHL Draft Lottery in previous years, and I probably hate myself for it, but now that it's live, I'll be doing it again. I don't care.
yeah, it'll be a ton of fun, I think. And the extra fun part of it is that when they're doing the drawing, first off, they're going to do two drawings, one to pick the first overall pick, and then they'll do the second overall pick. So we get to go through this whole process twice, which
Right.
makes it super, super fun. And then they've published out there the predetermined list of number combinations that are assigned to each NHL team. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can
For you
pull it up
math
yourself. So,
majors out there.
well, you don't even need math. You just need to look at
Well,
eyes
I
on the
mean, you don't
screen.
need right, for that, but I mean, if you're really trying to ponder it in your head, like, what might happen, like, it's too much to think about for me.
I don't think so, because basically you pull the first number out, right? And if you don't have any of those numbers in that number in any of your combinations, you're out, right? You just know it. So like you can look and they're sorted in a good way so that once like, we figure out which balls like so the balls are numbered 1 to 14,
Right,
right? So there's all these different combinations. Let's say they pull a 2 and an 8. Well, if you
right.
go and there's no 2-8 combo, in your list, you already know you're out. So in
Okay,
some
but you know
ways
what? Your spreadsheet brain works that way, mine does not. I'm just saying.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's and I'm sure there's people that have done automated things that they can just plug in the numbers and then eliminate all
Probably.
the existing like, I'm not gonna go that far, but I probably could. Honestly, now I'm thinking about it, if I
No,
wanted to
you're
put the
gonna do
time
it
in
because now you've
no,
talked
I'm not
yourself
I
into
don't
it.
have the time. I don't have the
Okay.
time, but if I had thought about it ahead of time, I would've. Listen, it's a fun thing to do. Spreadsheets are fun. Anyway, I think that it'll make it a really cool experience because we'll
Mhm.
get to go through this twice. I
Right.
mean, unless amazingly we get the first overall pick and then
Right,
we don't
then
have
you
to
won't
worry
go
about
through
it
it
for
twice. Correct.
for the second one there. And so there should be a whole bunch of drama there. And there's so many different combinations that are possible. And I think part of the other aspect of the drama that I love is the hate that we have all focused on particular teams who have
Oh,
won
yeah.
previous
Like, if
lotteries.
Pittsburgh goes number 1, it's gonna be like,
No,
Twitter will
I
break.
well,
Twitter will break.
I think we will as Flyers fans be like, "Oh, come on."
Oh,
But
no, I
I
think a
think
lot of people will.
nah, I don't know.
'Cause that's their
I
history,
don't know.
Rachel. They've always been able to
That's
rebuild their
true.
teams, so I'm telling you, it affects more than just Philly, I'm telling you.
Well, hopefully it does because they deserve it. But at any rate, I think, if Chicago gets first overall pick, there's going to be a riot. And honestly, I like San Jose, like, come on, you've been in that basement for so long now.
Yeah.
Like, I think I would have no issue if Nashville got the
Well, if
first
San
overall pick.
Jose or Chicago gets it, I believe then they can't get a first overall for, like, the next 3 or 5 years, something
Yeah,
like that, it's like the rule.
right. Yeah. There is a rule to that effect that you can't move up more than once or twice in a certain
Right.
time period. So
It's either
there is
3 or
that.
5 years, it's something like that.
Yeah, yeah, but, like, let's mix it up. Let's give it to Nashville, like, if it's not the Flyers, let's
Right.
be clear. Nashville, Buffalo's cool, not Boston, that's for sure, not the Islanders, that's for sure. Like, a wild card Detroit would be absolutely bonkers,
Yeah, I
but
mean, Detroit honestly has had the worst luck in the last 4 or 5 years. It would
yeah,
be good if they got it, if the Flyers didn't, because they've had hard luck in this draft, in that
yeah.
regard.
Now,
Not with picks,
um
but with that.
yeah, certainly let us know on the socials who if it's not the Flyers, who you want to get the first overall pick, because I think that's always a fun academic and emotional exercise there. The Flyers have had mostly not great luck in the lottery. Of course, there is the 2017 exception, which
Yep,
was the infamous moving up from 13 to 2, where
yep,
they picked Nolan Patrick, and we've talked about that before. But other than that, they mostly just didn't move or they weren't in the lottery.
right. Yeah, I mean, the results have not been great from a luck standpoint except for that, and sometimes you do need luck when you're rebuilding a team, like, luck is a part of it. It's not all as much as I like to tell you it's all skill and we could pick out all these players and we're right every time and everything else, sometimes it's about the positioning too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just to remind us of the percentages that the Flyers have. So there's a 44.6%, or sorry, yeah, 44.6% chance that the Flyers will get the 5th overall pick,
And
even though
that's
they're
what
in
we
the
all
4th
think is
spot.
gonna happen, like, most of us
Yeah.
think, "Yeah, that's probably what's gonna happen."
Yeah, and then the next highest is the 6th spot at 20.8%. The next highest is the 4 spot where they currently sit at 15.4%. Then, of course, as we know, they have a 9.5% chance at either the first or second overall pick. And then there's this very slim 0.3% chance at the 3 spot. And we've talked about that's what happens if Detroit moves up
Right,
and wins the first lottery, but they can't move up that many spots.
right,
So they move down to 2, and the Flyers would also then have won the second overall spot.
right,
So it would be Detroit Flyers, but Detroit can't be in 1, so that
right,
would push the Flyers down because they
right.
would move somebody else up.
Yeah,
So,
the only thing I say about this is that, um, you always do have a chance, but the weighted lottery is the best way to exemplify it is to say they're in the 4th spot now, but they only have a 15 point whatever chance to stay in that spot, and that's what the weighted lottery does.
yep. So, should be fun. We will certainly be talking about it on tomorrow's show. We may drop that a little bit early if it's available.
Yep.
So stay tuned to your feeds. It may come out before midnight tonight. And in the meantime, it is Monday. So we, of course, have to have our nemesis of the week. We'll do that coming up next.
Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. I did that with my own website, NHLDraftBuzz.com. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business daily.
All right. Before we dive into the nemesis of the week, we have been keeping an eye on goaltending issues. We're going to talk about free agency a little bit later in the week as well. And with goaltending, there had been ideas floated out around there about Freddie Anderson. He just signed an extension. So that option is off the table. I don't know that it was the right one at
No,
all, but
I didn't think so. That's I voiced that
yeah,
before. I would just say this: the free agent goaltending market is nil. It's really nil.
yeah, it's a tough road to go if that's how you're trying to fix that problem for the Flyers, but we'll get into it more later this week. In the meantime, it is Monday, so we will name our nemesis of the week. Last week, I was just venting about the lack of a date and time for the draft lottery. It was like so last minute,
It was.
relatively, it was like late last
But you
week when
built it up in
they
your
finally announced
mind too,
it.
so for you, it was even worse.
Yes, that's true, but it's also about I need to plan my life. Like, just tell me
The
so I can
NHL
figure
doesn't
out.
care about your life. No offense.
They very much don't care about my life, and that has been abundantly clear for the last decades of my life following this sport. They do not care about me and my emotional well-being. That is for sure, if there's any truth in this world. Hockey does not love you back in a way, but, at any rate, you talked about highway signs, and it should be very clear how many miles to the food or gas or whatever that's on the signage. And so you're not like wandering around, or it should have like, only one turn. Like you shouldn't have to make more than two turns to get to gas or food or whatever
Right.
that's off the highway, right? I am totally with you there. for me this week, I'm going to talk about the PWHL because, I do cover women's hockey on the Women's Hockey Report, which is every Saturday. That's on the
Mhm.
Locked On NHL feed here on the network. And the playoffs are starting Wednesday in Toronto. The Toronto Scepters will kick off the playoffs, even though the Montreal Victoire won the regular season
Yeah, I saw that.
record with the most points. And they get to choose their opponent for the first round, which is a fun thing. And
It is.
so I think that adds to the chaos, first off,
It does.
which I think is phenomenal. So I think like just this general chaos of we'll know by the time you're listening to this who
Right.
Montreal is picked because they're doing it late Sunday. So at any rate, there's going to be a ton more chaos with the PWHL playoffs this week, and I cannot wait. Russ, what is your nemesis of the week?
So my nemesis of the week is the former NFL players that are kind of mad that an NFL coach gave out anonymous quotes about the Shador Sanders interview. And this is why I'm not in the same ballpark with them. As you know, with the NHL Combine, players get interviewed. These are the last interviews. This is the last. It's like a job interview. This is the last time you have to impress a team before the draft. Shador Sanders didn't go well. He didn't go to the draft. Like he's one of these guys that had the party at his house. He had this whole special room. He spent so much money. There was rumors he'd go fifth overall. He sat there with his dad, Deion Sanders, and apparently sat there for 5 rounds. So that's multiple days because after the first round, it goes, I think 3 days. And
Right.
so, and that could happen in any draft. Although it's hard pressed to find an NHL one. I mean, this year it could happen maybe, but it's hard pressed to find that. But at the end of the day, I'm not mad about the anonymous quote because I think that person that reporter who got it got a scoop. And this is what happens. And these days, scoops are hard to come by. And I would never, ever fault that. And as you can see, there was a lot of truth to it because when it first came out, people were like, well, this isn't fair. Uh, Somebody's got an axe to grind. There's all these conspiracy theories. Well, you know what? There's a reason. They weren't just the only team that felt that way, clearly, and it took until the 5th round for him to go instead of 5th overall. So, you know what? So my nemesis is just those former players that say this isn't fair and that person should reveal their source. And it's like, no, a reporter is never going to reveal their source. Sorry.
Well, that whole thing was absolutely bonkers. But as an outsider, like it definitely drew people who weren't necessarily into football into that conversation
Yes,
because it was absolutely crazy. Very much looking forward to the NHL draft combine, though. That's always a good time. We get to
it is.
find out about a little more about some of these kids, and they do all those
Yep.
tests, and
Yep.
it's a lot of fun. So
Find out who
looking
they spoke
forward.
to and at times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff that come out of the combine. That will do it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. Tomorrow we're going to talk draft lottery results and Lehigh Valley Phantoms. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got mailbag questions or Flyers thoughts, let us know on any of our socials at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology on the same socials, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the all new Locked On NHL game night. Every game, every night. Until that Stanley Cup champion is crowned, get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL game night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day.